I'm Erin J. Doyle. Welcome to my channel. I'm having a bit of a chaos moment. I've already filmed this video in its entirety. I made no mistakes. I did this thing in one take. That never happens. And I was like coherent the whole time. There was no like, oh well, I'm going to do this in one take because that's uneditable, so we're just going to leave the insanity in there. It was perfect. And you know what happened? The file got corrupted. So here we are, having to refilm when all I really want to do is get on to making dinner because it's like getting kind of late. But anyway, here we are. So what was I talking about before when I made this video? So I've got a little bit of an update on my news story. So I still don't know what I'm going to call this when I'm talking to you guys. Like, there are various ideas, but none of them are like catchy. But anyway, so it's like the new idea. I'm now up to about 7,500, maybe 8,000 words. These aren't all story. A whole bunch of these, like probably less than 100 of them, but it seems like a lot of them are headings, because this book is going to be lots of different perspective characters. Some will have many chapters throughout the book, some of them will just be like, you know, just a quick like a moment or a scene of somebody's life, and then we'll kind of just move on and we'll probably forget about them. So as I'm writing the kind of more important chapters for these characters that will be around for a while, I'm also thinking about some of these other characters that are going to show up, and some putting in like headings. It'll be like, you know, character name, this country, and then maybe a couple of lines so I remember what I'm going to talk about with them. But most of it is actual story. I've also been moving the camera slightly because it's on a mat. I've also been doing a little bit of research. So this story is, there's going to be a major global event, and then it's how people respond to it, and then what actually happened being unveiled. Or rather, we know what's happened, but we don't know how it's happened, and that's what the story is also about. So I've been talking to people at uni and just trying to like see what people think they would do under a certain situation. And that's important because I want the story to be quite wide. Like, it's a global event. I don't want to just know like what do people in New Zealand do, or you know, just the UK or wherever. I want multiple countries and cultures to be represented, and I want to look at the consequences of this event for people in like different socioeconomic groups, cultures, all that kind of thing. So obviously that means research, which was not the plan. This is why we wanted to write the other book, but no, now we're writing this one. Fortunately, there's a whole bunch of international students at my university, including myself, I guess. So a few people have been like, so this is the story, how do you think you would react? The other thing, in addition to research, the other thing that I'm having to currently make a decision on, and it's a big one, is how nasty this event is going to be. So a whole bunch of people who meet a specific criteria are gone. Now, they could all drop dead, which, because it's a lot of people, would result in mass graves, because there would be a very large number of corpses, and would also be quite icky as a result. Like, dead bodies everywhere is obviously quite unpleasant. But if everyone just, who's obviously within these criteria, just drops dead, then some of those people are going to be in less than ideal situations to drop dead in. So there'd be people like driving cars or operating wood chippers and that kind of thing. So if these people just drop dead, then there's not just the corpses, there's also potentially like the mutilated corpses, car accidents, planes crashing, oh my goodness, nightmare stuff. So that's like the most logical explanation I could come up with that fits the best within my world building and requires the least explanation to try and figure out why it's happened. That is the option to go with. But it's so icky, I don't want the icky, like it just isn't part of the original vision for this. The extreme other end would be, poof, they're gone. Like, nobody sees anyone disappear. Like, it wouldn't be like in the Avengers movie when people like disintegrate and float away. They're just gone. But that would be very difficult to justify within the world building. And what was the and? It was important. Ah, yes. So how would people not see it happen? Like, is it you just poof disappear when no one's looking? Like, that seems to be throwing in an extra criteria. Like, it's not just the people who meet this criteria, it's when the person who meets this criteria is alone. Poof. And that's a bit extra hoo-ha to try and explain, is kind of difficult. I could do an in-between option, which would give me okay, yeah, maybe the dead bodies, but maybe without the level of ickiness and the accidents and the chaos, which would be maybe the people who meet this criteria die in their sleep. So this would mean that New Zealand being in the first time zone, all the people who met this criteria would die in their sleep all that one night, and obviously the chaos would start in New Zealand, whilst the other side of the planet were all awake and fine, thank you very much. And so people in the northern hemisphere would get a little bit of advanced warning that specific people weren't going to survive going to sleep. And so potentially I could build that in, like people knowing it's coming, trying to fight against it, and you know, all the fear that would be associated with that, and eventually succumbing because you can't stay awake that long. And you know, best and the brightest scientists are going to need more than just a couple of days to figure out how, like, what is happening, or even try to figure out how to stop it, and they can't. But you know, you would know that, right? Like, you could have, I don't know, maybe like a sleep researcher or something, trying to figure out what it is about sleep that causes people to suddenly die when sleep's actually really good for you. But you can only go a few days without dying if you don't sleep. So there wouldn't be enough time for them to actually do anything, and all the people who meet the criteria would die. So I've kind of got these three options to pick from, and it's really the icky, dropping dead, bodies everywhere, planes crashing, car accidents. That one makes the most sense. The original vision for this was a bit more of a peaceful poof, okay, it's done, no difficulties, no violence, no mess, no burials kind of option, which is the nicest, but I can't justify it. And then we've got this middle option, which is more, I think, less violent than the first option, but has a little bit more of a psychological holy shit thing going on. And I feel like I have to make that decision so that I can build it in as I'm writing stories about what happens in the aftermath of all of these deaths. So I'm having a little bit of just a struggle with this. I know that they just drop dead is the easiest, it's the most logical, but I just don't want to have dead bodies everywhere. So I'm struggling with that, and that's kind of where I'm up to. And now I'm going to go see if this time this footage can be salvaged from the camera and actually used. So hopefully that's that, and I won't be filming this again. Anyway, if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, etc. And I'll see you next time. Bye!